All right, we'll go from the top again. So sorry about this.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, whatever, man. It was Discord, whatever.
Yeah. So first one. What were your first impressions of Sam as an intern when he first started?
He was definitely a go-getter. There's a lot of interns that come in and out, and
Mm.
a lot of them you can't even remember their names
Right.
because they're just so uneventful. But Sam wasn't like that. He was, he caught your attention. Obviously, he's got a look. He has a weird voice, but he went out of his way to get the content, which is a lot. Which is what a lot of interns don't do. Like no one really goes the extra mile. They show up, they
Mm.
make copies, they get breakfast, and they go home.
Right. 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 So of an evening, Sam would be thinking about the show, probably more so than other interns.
Yeah, he'd have ideas. He'd have things to say. He'd speak up. Not in a like an egotistical way.
Hmm.
Have proper suggestions at the proper time, and
Sure.
it worked out.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Was Sam well liked by his fellow interns and any of the production of like by the majority of the production staff, or were there any exceptions to that, perhaps?
I mean, I don't remember who was in Sam's intern class aside from Bill, which we had called. I didn't call it. I think Opie called him Wild Bill, and the way it works with Opie is once he decides on a nickname, that's your nickname. So I think we had to go with Wild Bill.
Wild Bill.
So yeah, I think Bill was in Sam's intern class with somebody else, but there was a huge. I mean, if you go back in time and go look at the shows from those days,
Hmm.
I'm sure that you could see a pretty wide discrepancy between the two of them and what they brought to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, especially, I think a lot of the listeners. This is before the more recent sort of turnaround when it comes to Sam. I think a lot of the older listeners were very much very pro Sam, myself included. I thought that he did bring a lot of good ideas. I'm going to be talking a lot about Jocktober in the documentary, so yeah, I do definitely want to try and enlighten
Well,
some of the things
let
that he
me
did do well.
let me. I mean, I'll give my thoughts on Jocktober and then how Sam fits into the Jocktober
Yeah,
thing.
that's actually a really good question I've not marked down, but I'll definitely add that. Do you want to talk about that now?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we brought it up. We might as well.
Okay.
So, Jocktober was an idea that Opie kind of birthed,
Hmm.
and I didn't like it because when this whole thing first started, I was still I don't even know if I was full time yet, man, but I was still a phone screener,
Hmm.
and I just didn't understand why we were committing so much time to just listening to other people's radio shows, and I'm pretty sure like if I was getting paid, it wasn't a lot,
Hmm.
So I'm staring through this double pane soundproof window at dudes making millions of dollars that are just sitting there giggling, listening to like some random fucking FM show in like the middle of Tennessee, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I wasn't a big fan of Jocktober, but
Hmm.
when push came to shove and it became a thing that they wanted to do every day, it's like, okay, so who's gonna go and listen to all this terrible shit? And it's like, who wants to do that? Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to go. Like, dude, I got up at 3:30 in the morning. Like, what you like? I don't want to go home and then listen to shitty radio just to make a bad bit of it tomorrow. Like, and I know a lot of people love the Jocktober thing. I was just never about it. I mean, there
Hmm.
were a few gems. There were a few diamonds in the rough there, but for the most part, it's fucking really boring, and it's just a way to kill time.
Sure.
What something that was one of the quotes around the studio that you probably never hear on, or maybe they did say it on fucking air. It was like whatever gets us to 10 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like fuck what it was, man. So if it was listening to Terry Clifford for fucking 40 minutes,
Hmm.
then you know what? That's 40 minutes where no one has to do anything. It's 40 minutes where Opie could sit there and do Sudoku. It's 40 minutes that Anthony could go on Pal Talk. So, that's how this became a huge thing. And that this was a huge boon for, the talent. Like when they could just sit back, relax, and then they're just
Hmm.
on autopilot while Sam, narrates this hour-long segment every day for a month. It becomes
Yeah.
pretty attractive.
It's a good point that I think because of the Terry Cliffords and the Scott and Todds of the world, I think as listeners you really get a distorted idea of what Jocktober was and how good it was. That I'm remembering now there were Jocktober ones where it did seem like they were trying to get blood out of a stone. It felt like a lot of it was just trying, like, really forcing to try and find an angle on something that wasn't necessarily there. So
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, as a producer of the show for as long as I was, like, it's not. I never looked at the position like as an ass kiss fest. Like, oh, whatever Opie says is the job.
Sure.
I didn't agree with that. So, I wasn't really about the Jocktober thing. Like, I thought, a couple of days a month, maybe it was a once a week in October thing. Like, okay, I get it. Like, maybe the Friday Jocktober segment, I could see that happening. But to waste so much time as we did with it every day, it was just so incredibly lazy. And it was really just a platform for everybody to just kind of take a break and do whatever they were doing. Like, it didn't take much to do.
I mean, as like a show, it's an absolute incredible find, knowing that there's this comedy, this radio bit that's going to take you to 10 o'clock completely blissfully, and the listeners were into it, and it was like, it's a very weird situation that became. But I mean, at the same time, you can't. The Terry Clifford stuff and some of the Scott and Todd stuff, it was like, from my perspective, very, very good radio at times.
Some of it was good, but I mean, we all get older, every day, and I look back at some of those attacks, and that's really what they were, and it was just so vile and brutal and unnecessary.
Well, they were. Have you been watching the Beige Frequency documentaries that he's been doing?
The who?
There's a guy, Beige Frequency, he's been doing I think he's on part 5 at the moment, where it's like a complete bio on Anthony, and it's like,
oh no, I mean, I've been trying to stay away from all that shit, to be honest with you, because it's just like unhealthy and self-destructive. Like, that
is true, but I think you would enjoy. I think you would absolutely enjoy. His latest one was all about the Sue Lightning, all about the self-cutter. It's just as something to watch. I would absolutely suggest you take a look at it. It's very, very well done. It's very autistically analysed, and it's if I was Anthony, I would absolutely deny the existence of this thing till my dying breath. So yeah, back to Sam. So you've been well liked by production staff. So your personal relationship with Sam initially, obviously you talk about his work ethic and your professional relationship to him. Did you have any kind of a personal relationship to him at any time, and how did that look?
No, I mean, no. If there was any relationship that we had, it was fleeting. Let's say, like, you could be in like junior high school or high school, and like you're friends with the bully for like 6 weeks, but then it just goes back to whatever. Like, that's kind of what like that's kind of what it was like with Sam.
Was there any level of animosity there, or was it more of a just, I'm out of your way, you're out of my way, we're not really close? Was it more that? Or?
I mean, look, there's no secret that there was definitely sides and teams, and there were people that were more on one side than the other, and like I think that Sam knew that Opie was more of the. No one wanted to be the boss. Like, Jim's not going to be the boss. Anthony doesn't want to be the boss, but Opie has no fucking problem being the boss. So. I think he saw that opportunity as, well, of course I should go and be the boss's friend, because, if I'm friends with the boss, he can do something for me.
Right.
Whereas Jim can't, and Anthony can't. Like, what's Anthony gonna do? Put in a good word? You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be in his fucking car at 10:15, and that's gonna be the end of it. There's not gonna be these, drawn out conversations about where Sam fits within the company and the show and all that shit. But Opie will sit in a meeting with somebody and do that.
So on the back of that, I'll jump to the question about Sam's relationship to Opie. So what was Sam's relationship to Opie like from your perspective? Did it feel like it was a case where Sam utilized Opie for that little leg up, or was there? Do you think there was any kind of like genuine?
I mean, I'll tell you, and I mean, this is gonna sound shitty, I guess, but everything that the O&A fans say about me, like, that's actually what it was with Sam. Like, I wasn't hanging out with Anthony to, like, get somewhere in the company or get my own radio show or get more airtime. Like, we just were boys and we hung out. But Sam was actually the guy to kiss the ass.
Yeah.
And play that game. And that's absolutely what it was. I don't fault him for it. I just don't want to play that game. That's not a game that I want to play every day. But if
No,
you want to
absolutely.
play that game, well then fuck it, man. Whatever. I just don't want to play. I don't like it.
On the back of that, do you think that Sam was good enough? Do you think like meritocracy played a large part in Sam progressing through Sirius, or do you think that a lot of it was leg ups and maybe perhaps some underhanded kind of backstabbing nature, or is that completely just a false narrative? Do you think he was deserved of his rise in Sirius XM?
I think that he was in like the right place at the right time. I mean, that's all anything really is. You know, it's the only reason why I got to where I got. I mean, look, I started from intern. I ended up a senior producer for years. So, you know, and all it was being at the right place at the right time. And
Right.
I don't see it being any different for Sam. I mean, he hung around. He played the game long enough to still be in it. You know, a lot of people couldn't deal with that shit. You know, a lot of people bailed. A lot of people, you know, got fired or whatnot. But he stuck it out. So
it's just like sitting at being at the poker table long enough that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, who's going to host the show? Is it going to be Travis? You know, who's left? Who's going to do it? Eric Nagel?
Yeah, it's
You know, who's the what personality is left to salvage something of this audience?
Exactly.
Like, we don't have the original hosts anymore. So who are the two most outspoken people that can try to do something? You know, so of course it's going to be Jim and Sam. I mean, look, even if let's say hypothetically I was still around, like that's not what I'm looking for. I don't want to be a co-host. I don't want to be that guy. Like that's never what I wanted. So, you know, that's not why I didn't get into radio so that I could host a show. I never cared about that. So, you know, Sam wants to host a show. You know, he's put forward the exuberance to host a show multiple times. So, you know, if you're serious, you know, management, you know, and I'm not saying that you know what you're doing, but you know, you're gonna go based on logic, and it's like, okay, you know, who does the audience know, and who knows how to talk on the air, and it's gonna be Jim and Sam. So, you know, of course
they want to retain the familiarity as far as the audience perspective, but they want to give it to someone who's showing that they want. I get that absolutely.
Like, I'm sure Sam got like a nice like 25K bump. You know, he would probably be an idiot to turn down any kind of advancement monetarily.
Sure.
So, you know, I don't think that Sirius is doubling Sam's salary.
Like you said, I think maybe like a 25K bump or something. It seems.
Put it this way. I
reasonable.
mean, if he was making six figures, I would be very surprised.
Wow.
Very surprised.
For an on-air position, a co-hosting position on a morning radio show, that is very.
Yeah, but there's no brand, man. You have to understand, man. This isn't Opie and Anthony. This isn't Sky and Todd. This isn't the Grease Man. This isn't Howard Stern. This is what is Jim and Sam? What the fuck does that even mean to anybody? It means nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Who is Jim? Who is Sam? If I went out on the street right now and I was just like, hey man, you know Jim and Sam? They would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Also, I think it only really means anything if they're willing to acknowledge, entertain, and pacify the existing fan base of Opie and Anthony. But it seems very much the opposite's true, that they're both trying to feed their whatever their interests are. So it's like wrestling guests or, you know, whatever Jim wants and stuff.
And it's also a thing, like, you know, a lot of people have the misconception that Opie and Anthony was kind of like this American Idol kind of a show where like everybody sat down to watch it at 8 o'clock, you know, and like that's just not like, you know, maybe in like 1999 or 2000 they had a pretty good market share, but like, you know, we're talking like 2007 or 8 or like excuse me, like no, like dude, we're so past this now, like but you know, they did a good job of expressing to their audience how on top they were, you know. Never mind the New York ratings. Don't look at the New York ratings because it's rigged and it's all wrong, you know. But like, dude, we never did good in the ratings. Like we did fix in the ratings, you know. And I'm not saying that it was anybody's fault or whatever, but like I do think it had a lot to do with, you know, we were doing really bad radio back then.
It's a strange one. I think like as a part of the fandom or fan base or whatever you want to call it, it's very you obviously your opinion gets very skewed because it's such a bigger part of your entertainment than it is to anybody else's. But yeah, I mean, especially with the likes of Stern, I think that the Stern thing was always like a false equivalent. I think there was no, I from my perspective, I don't think guys were anywhere near Stern's level, but it was because it was talked about so often by Opie, and it was
right.
It was,
It's exactly. It's like being a fan of a sports team or whatever, and like maybe you see their potential, and like you think they play really well, but obviously there's better and bigger and better teams, but because they're your team or whatever, like
sure.
so like they can do nothing wrong, and it's like whatever, like we're gonna fuck them up or whatever. And I think that the talent was good at that. They were good at playing the underdog and pretending like they were at like a competitive level, when really that was only a couple of years out of the whole career. There was never a time where this thing was huge.
Sure.
Minus like 2000, 2001. Like once we're talking about like 2006 and forward, like this was radio was dying in the first place. The internet was getting big. You had YouTube growing up, and listening to talk radio on the FM dial wasn't something that people were interested anymore, and they had an iPod.
The funny thing is with that is that it almost goes in contrast with what listeners perceive as being the glory years of the show, and I think most listeners will probably say between the years of 2004 and 2010 being the the Cellar Crowd years.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
I mean, from the subreddit's perspective, that's what it's pretty clear that's what they deem to be the glory years. I'm sure from a ratings perspective and a number of other factors, I'm sure that what you say is correct, that it was more turn of the century. But it's just something I've noticed from talking to a lot of people on the subreddit, from Discord and stuff. But people seem to, at least people of my demographic, seem to enjoy that more, the 2004 to 2010 like Cellar Crowd guest era, the post Tough Crowd era.
Right. And I think it was 2001. It was either late 2000 or early 2001. The ratings came in after a syndication deal, and Cleveland had something like a 23 share. Like, I don't know if you know how like ridiculous that is, but it was basically like everybody in Cleveland was listening to the Opie and Anthony show. It's all like, that's pretty ridiculous. Like when you could take over an entire city. But once that FM situation went away, I think it was always a hurdle.
Right.
To get back to the glory days, as it were, because it was a hard sell to get people to pay for radio for a pretty long time.
Of course, yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you've noticed if you look at the satellite radio market, they've basically completely abandoned the consumer level products. And like if you go into a Best Buy, like you're not going to see a big Sirius XM display anymore. And they've just primarily focused on the new and aftermarket car market. Like that's it. Like there's no new satellite radio Walkman. There's not a new roadie that you can pick up.
It's not something consumer grade where you'll drag it home and put it in your kitchen.
It's either in your car or it's not. That's it.
Yeah, understand. Okay, so back to Sam. At any point of your relationship with him, did it sour, or I think I'll go back to the question of animosity. Were there any examples that you can think of where there was a significant level of animosity, or were you pretty platonic throughout the whole thing?
No, I mean, I think once the Fan and Sam clique started to coagulate, I felt that there was always we're better than him, because like they share a similar background. They're both from like very affluent families, and up in the fucking suburbs of like no, they didn't grow up like in town. They came fucking really like Fan's fucking parents, like they have a house in Martha's Vineyard, for Christ's sake. Like Sam grew up in like nice hoity-toity Westchester. Like these fucking people. They don't understand what it's like to fucking grow up hearing gunshots from the projects across the street, So, there was always this, like, I really did feel like there was this, like, class war. Like, they felt that they were so much fucking better than me because I was, like, some Queens fucker.
Yeah,
and they went to college and had fucking, well-to-do families and shit, like...
Pat reinforced that a little. I was talking to Pat earlier just in text, and he reinforced that, saying that Sam comes from a privileged position where He's never been punched in the face. He's never been humbled. He's co-steered to a degree, and that to me reinforced the idea that maybe there is this weird class war almost. And I mean, Pat Duffy. I mean, the guy ate feces as part of a bit, so I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have saw Sam do something like that. But yes, that's really interesting. Meritocracy, we've done that pretty much. Ill feeling. Yeah. So I mean, back on Pat. Obviously, Pat and Sam had their thing, and he doesn't speak very highly of Sam like at all. Even to this day, years and years later, he's still clearly harbours well-deserved resentment, in my opinion. But were there any other instances or any other people that you worked with that felt in the same way that Pat did, or was Pat more of an outlier?
I think no. I mean, if you ask me, everybody knows who Sam is. You know, they know his character. They know what game he's playing. They know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just beyond that, it becomes more of like, well, I have to work with this dude, so you know, I'm going to make this as pleasant as possible. So you just kind of roll with it. You just go, well, that's just Sam. You know what I mean? So you just kind of get over it or whatever. But like, was he annoying? Like, did people think he was annoying? Did people think like, oh, of course, fucking Sam, right? Yeah, yes, like every day. But it's just like it's not worth it at that point. It's like why would I stir up this sauce, bro? Like I don't care. Like I get paid, bro. I don't give a fuck. Like let Sam stir some sauce, bro. I don't give a fuck.
That's a good answer. Yeah, it is a case of like why should I make my life there miserable by focusing on this one element that I might not necessarily.
Yeah, like was it douchey how much he would kiss like Ope's ass? Like, yeah, of course, you know. And like I knew, but at the same time, I knew it looked the same on the surface, or at least to the audience on my end too. So it's like, what am I gonna do? Fight it? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, what are you gonna do? You just leave it alone? Like, fuck it, whatever, and just let it happen. Like,
I think from my perspective, I think the again going back to the subreddit, I think the notion on there. I mean, you might see it very differently from all the things you've been tweeted out or messaged or whatever, but I mean, I'm of the feeling that your relationship with that was Anthony there was legitimate platonic mutual friendship there in a way that obviously clearly wasn't between Sam and Opie. Like, absolutely not. So I think there is a clear difference that the audience did see there. I don't think that they conflated you and Anthony with Sam and Opie. I think it was a very clear difference. It was like you were clearly friends with Opie.
I mean, look, I've been tweeted, you know, pool boy, this and that, and you know.
Oh yeah.
I've been accused of only hanging out for fucking, like, you know, parties and money and shit. Like, you know, let me tell you something, man. I know it's off topic, but it's a quick story anyway. I forget where the hell we were coming from. I don't know why we were there, but we're like downtown Manhattan. There's a taco place, and we're like, let's get tacos, and you know, order my tacos. I think Keith was there, you know, and Anthony takes out his card to like pay for it, and like I almost got into like a fucking like a heated screaming match with this motherfucker because he wouldn't let me pay for my own tacos.
What?
You know? So, you know, it just, you know, when I start to hear things like, you know, oh, money and fucking pool boy shit, it's like, bro, like, you don't even know.
Plus, like, I mean, at the same time, like, this show is such an important, like, it's not only is it just a job for you guys, but like, especially someone in your position, you're producer of like the Opie and Anthony show. That's a big thing, and I think that it's only inevitable that this show is such a big part of your life that you're going to try and seek out somebody to relax with and someone to hang out with, and I think the more intelligent people, or the people that kind of at least like can understand human behavior, probably I think they agree with me that they saw your and Anthony's thing. It was just two buddies hanging out, just, you know, drinking and hanging out. I don't think it was any more than that. I think it was just the kind of like the subreddit shitheads that might have read too much into it.
And you know, I think a lot of people don't understand too that, like, yeah, sure, like I was around in 2004, you know, when the show came back, but like really I was kind of around since like 99. Because like that's when I discovered the show, like that's when I was introduced to it, and I started listening like every day. Like that's when I became one of you guys. Yeah. You know, like and you know, so that's that's not 2008, it's not 2006, it's not 2000, it's 1998 or 9. I think is when I got into that shit. So it's just like, you know, I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper or nothing like that.
No. I mean, it's why I've
been around for a long time.
No, dude, it's exactly why I figured it would be a really good idea to hit you up with this, because again, like, there's going to be massive gaps in what we know as fans, and for something like this, especially something that's very targeted towards Sam, it's very hard to get a lot of my feelings towards him like validated or invalidated. Like I could be completely wrong about him. You could tell me that he's a great guy and that he's nice to be around and stuff, and that's great. But like, so it's very very valuable. So next question. Yeah, this one's a important one. How was Sam's working relationship to like his underlings, to people that worked under him, and were there any problems that you saw as far as like his treatment of other interns or staff that he was above, or was he a nice guy?
There was, I mean, any kind of intern abuse was basically an Sam generated. I mean, I know I take some shit for making fun of I think, who the hell was it? Cream Pie Jones?
Oh, Cream Pie Jones, yeah.
No, it was somebody else. Oh, it was Blind Stevie. I get shit for that. I probably deserve the shit, I'm sure. But you know, Blind Stevie wouldn't be an intern, you understand, unless Sam hired him.
Right.
And you know, and that was my problem with Sam being involved with the intern selection process was, you know, Sam would go for, you know, the most Bobo-esque person that he could find. And I would go for the most capable for the job, with the one exception, I do have to admit, of intern David, because the second I talked to that dude, I was like, okay, like, you're totally hired. There's no way we're not taking you.
Yeah, I mean, he was a joy, absolute joy. So, I mean, if
you'd ask him a question, right? Dude, you would ask him a question, like, it could be any question, like, hey, David, what time is it? And then he would look you dead in the eye, like he would look through you, like 100 yards through you, and then wait like 8 seconds, and then answer your question. And like, that was the best part.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like if that was your hire, man, congratulations, because you created like one of the funniest.
Dude, I'll never forget. I interviewed him. I spoke to him for about 45 seconds, and then I was like, "Oh, hold on a second," and I just walked into where Steve was, like in our little glass and I was like, "Steve, we gotta take this guy." Like, you don't even get it. Like, you gotta talk to him.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So, Sam's hiring process, like you said, it was more about finding the next Bobo-y kind of guy. So, like, Sam, he wouldn't hire somebody that could do his job, that could compete with.
No.
Do you think a lot of it was his and this might be a bit of a leading question, but do you think a lot of it might be his tendency to not want to have to compete with someone that might be on his level, or do you think there was an element of fear there, that he had to try and look to people that he knew he could assert his dominance over, or that he could assert his competence over?
Sam was a sociology major in college, and all he did was use his knowledge to manipulate, you know, everybody. So like, you know, if you come on and you're an intern and like, you might have some game, you know, like Pat Duff, but you know, if you're a Sam, you know, kind of guy, and like, he's got that established relationship with the hosts, he's got this established relationship as an authority figure, like, it's really hard to go against that, because you're an intern, like, you've been there for 2-3 months or whatever, like, you know, you don't want to shit talk, you don't want to fucking get on the wrong, like, you want to get a job, dude, like, like, your goal is to be in Sam's spot, so it's like, you don't want to fucking shit on him, like, what are you going to do? So, when you know that, and you can use it as a weapon, like, of course you're going to do that.
No, definitely. So yeah, finally, I just want to talk about like Sam now. Obviously, he's made the move from behind the scenes to on air. How do you feel he performs as a broadcaster? How do you feel he's doing with Jim and Sam? And do you think he makes a good broadcaster? Do you think he's got the skill set to do it? Do you think that he's maybe above his head? What's your thoughts on that?
It's hard to answer really, because I haven't heard a lot of their show, and I know it's easy for someone to be like, yeah, of course, but like, I really don't. Yeah. And I've only heard maybe clips from like, I don't know, a year ago. So like, I really have no idea what they sound like these days. I just remember, like, from what I do remember hearing, like, it was just kind of awkward. It was it didn't really go together. I mean, they're both incredibly different people, and while that at times can make for a very interesting environment, I just think it became it from what I recall, it just kind of sounded like self-masturbation, like, you know.
Yeah.
Jim wants UFC guys, and Sam wants wrestling guys, and Jim wants porno guys, and they can never agree on anything, and they can never talk about the same subject, and it's just it doesn't seem like anything I'd be interested in, and so I don't listen to it.
It's probably a good thing. I think a lot of people, especially during the Opie split saga with Morning Harambe as a show that was kind of birthed the Jim and Sam show. Essentially, there was a lot of very good energy, and I think a lot of people were still very pro Sam on that at that time. As somebody that has endured and has tried to give it as many chances as he could, because ultimately, like, I have a lot of time off and I travel a lot and stuff, so I want to listen to like good quality entertainment if I can. So I've given that show as much of a chance as I physically could and tried to stay as down the middle as I could, because I didn't hate either of them beforehand, but. After 2-3 years of it, believe me, you're in a good position not to tune into it. It's arguably, without any hyperbole, probably one of the worst radio shows I might have ever heard. It's painful. It's a case of taking 5-minute conversations and dragging it to an hour. And I know a lot of radio does that, but they do it to everything to them is to the extreme. It's them traversing the middle of a political discussion and not taking either side or.
Like both Jim. I mean, look, Jim and Sam are. Opie just didn't. He was of no opinion. Like he just didn't know anything, right? But like Jim and Sam, like they'll just read headlines, like, and they'll base opinions off of headlines. So like when a conversation just starts going into in depth, and like this is why Anthony was regarded as some kind of genius on the fucking show, because he was the only person that would like read stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was all the hard right shit, but at least he'd read it. Like
sure.
Nobody else was reading anything, so nobody knew what to say. So at least when there was a point being made, it didn't even matter like where it was or what side of the fence it was on. It was like, wow, that was a really well thought out point. Like I can't do that, and so that's another factor why I wouldn't listen to Jim and Sam. It's like I know these guys. They don't know what the issues are. They don't know what their audience is. I don't know what their audience is. Like if they had an opening for a producer and they were like, "Hey, come produce our show," I'd be like, I don't even know, like, how do you program that show? Who's listening to Jim and Sam? Who knows? What is Jim Norton's audience now?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What is Sam Roberts' audience now? I don't know who these people are. I think they're like over 40 truckers. Like, what would I do? Like, would I advertise at the fucking Waffle House? Like, I don't understand what would happen here. Like, who's the audience? Because it's not young people.
I tell you what, in fact, if you are a producer of that show, you're better. You'd be in much a better position to just try and create a show without Jim as part of the equation, and just double down on Sam's wrestling thing. At least you're targeting an audience that way, and at least with Sam you can also talk about the TMZ related nonsense and stuff.
It's the passion too. Like, look, Sam's not going to ever talk about a political standpoint with passion because he doesn't give a fuck, or at least he didn't when I was working for him. So, that sounds like a Freudian slip. I never worked for you, you bitch. I never worked for you. But if you gave Sam a show where he could focus on his passion, like wrestling, I think it would be a good show because he knows what he's talking about. He's got enough personality where he can get by. I know a lot of WWE fans don't like him. I've seen some of those tweets.
Yeah, I've definitely I've got a few of those saved already. So we'll be getting.
Sam is a fellow fucking. He probably grew up within fucking 40 miles of the McMahon family in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Yeah. Yeah, he probably went to school with some of the younger
McMahons. Something tells me that Bronx Johnny isn't getting a job at fucking WWE anytime soon.
Yeah. Okay, man. I think that wraps it up right there. I think dude. Thanks a lot for this as well. That's really, really good. Some really good answers, and I think there's so much I can use in that. And yeah,
I'm trying not to like shit on anybody hardcore. I don't think I did that.
You came across really balanced. You obviously you express yourself in a sense of like giving opinions on him, but I don't think necessarily anything you said could be taken out of context or not at least be out there without you being able to support it with an argument. I think it was a really good you traversed the line pretty well without really going over the top. I imagine Pat Duffy's one's going to be very different. I think he might be a little bit more, but no, it was really good, man. So thanks a lot for that, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. I'm not as terrible as they say.
No, like when it comes to subreddit, dude, like it is first of all, like as someone that's put stuff out there to mixed reaction a lot of the times, I've learned to like roll with it. Obviously, you've had it much worse because you're part of the thing. But like, I've seen little tiny snippets of it to realize that okay, it is a case of just rolling with the punches, and eventually they get bored of things and move on to other things, and it is just like. But it's for me, it's like a double-edged sword where you get the negative side of it, but it's also one of the funniest places I've visited online. So you can't. On a personal level, I kind of just go, you know what, all right, whatever. But when it comes to like. When it comes to you, or when it comes to any of the people that come on or anything like that, like I don't really have any strong opinions on any of that stuff either way. I think a lot of the people on the sub get very impassioned, and they follow the crowd, they follow the flow of hate or positivity. And
I think that you are right. I think that it is a place that can have a despicable sense of humor, but I'm not going to say it's not humor. It is humor. It's just pretty,
sure.
It's on the high end of
yeah.
levels.
But like,
but at the same time, there's also a very destructive aspect, where it gets to be over the line a bunch of times, especially on a personal level.
Right.
And almost kind of like, how do I want to explain it? Like they understand social engineering, let's say. So, if enough people Google, fucking Anthony Cumia pedophile, like that's going to be the search result that's relevant, So I think they understand that, and it's for us lesser people, like the Sam Roberts and me's of the Opie and Anthony experience, it can kind of fuck you pretty hard, man, because you're
sure.
constantly tied to that show forever and ever, and it can be a pretty big bummer.
Yeah, I get that. Like when the magnifying glass is above your head, it's a completely different perspective on.
So, but like
to
the subreddit, it's just like, oh, this is all fun and games and shit. But like in reality, like, actually, it's fucking for real, and it's kind of shitty.
Yeah, my perspective when it comes to that stuff is like mean humor's good and stuff, but meanness for the sake of meanness is for me, it's a bit like low hanging fruit stuff, and it's the same as people that make jokes by just repeating the N word ad nauseum. There's nothing there that gets my creative juices flowing. I prefer like even these dumb documentary things, like the gym one. Okay, there was a lot of like the gym documentary. There's a lot of like humorously delivered lines in it, and yeah, I was looking at some of the more devious aspects of his life, but it was still comedically done, and you can't accuse it of not at least trying to do something funny, and it wasn't necessarily really it's a video on Jim Norton. It's not like ridiculously destructive or anything. So I try to focus more on that.
I mean, look, Jim Norton in the first place, he's a celebrity, and
yeah.
In the public eye, I just think it, when things take that switch, like to the, going again back to Terry Clifford or whatever, like, it at the time, yeah, I probably thought it was hysterical, but I'm a lot older now. Like I'm almost fucking 40, dude. So it's like I have a different perspective on the world, and I have different views, and I'm not that same guy that I was when I was 24. So
no, I totally get that.
So I see these personal attacks, and it's like, we were really dicks, dude, like big time dicks. And it to me, it seems like the fan base turned into the kind of people that post on McDonald's. So
there is part of that. I think that as like going on the set, it still to me it feels a bit different, but there is definitely the pack mentality thing. There's definitely the going after the nasty for the sake of nasty rather than nasty for the sake of funny, and that's the big difference for me. It's like if you're just out there to just be a dick just to see what the person does in reaction, that's like that. There's nothing really for me there. I don't find that funny. It can be funny if he reacts the right way, but doing that as an intention to me it's just not challenging. Like if you're doing nasty to try and get to funny, and it's clear that you're doing that, like some of these, like I don't know if you've been seeing the sub lately, but these cameo videos where you get to pay actual celebrities like $100 or something to do like a video where they can say whatever the hell you want. So people have started to pay, like, they've been paying Bam Margera constantly to make Bam say congratulations Opie, with congratulations Greg, saying, I've heard your new podcast, Greg, you're doing really, really well, say hello to Lindsay for me, or like people, there's some celebrities that are I think they got the guy who they get, they got the guy from Sopranos, the guy who plays Vito in Sopranos, they got him to basically congratulate Anthony for giving Sue Lightning money for surgery. and in every single one of them they keep calling him Nana, so like that's nasty, but it's also ridiculously funny. Like, it's really, that's where the sub does very well. But when it just, when it's just like, well, oh, let's go and brigade,
I will digress. I mean, I know I laughed at a few of those things, but the situation, at least with Bam Margera and the Opster, is like, I will authenticate anything that is for real. Sure. Like, if it's the truth, it is the fucking truth. I don't care. But that old Bam Margera shit, the only place I ever heard that from was one place with no proof.
Yeah, was that what was his name? That the writer. I think we all know that it's probably bullshit. Like, but it's kind of like, I guess the idea is that it's kind of funny.
I just think that it's where it crosses. For me, it's where it crosses the line, because Lindsay, for whatever the fuck reason, I'll never know, married that motherfucker. But she's not a character on the show. She's never wanted to be. She's never wanted into that life or anything like that. And when you start attacking somebody's like wife, like, dude, she didn't even do anything. Like, she's just there,
right?
And it's bothersome to me. Like, it's a source of vitriol and hatred that's just unnecessary. Like, if you know Lindsay and you don't like her, okay, great. But like, so many people just like, could you just imagine if you just like, all you did was like marry some dude, like, whether you love him, whether it's for the money, I don't give a fuck, whatever you did. But now all of a sudden there's like a congregation of people that shit talk you ad nauseum, and
right.
Just constantly claim that you fuck Bam Margera to the point where it's the point where it's the most relevant result on Google or whatever. Like, it's just that's not necessary for the life of a private citizen. Like, it's just shitty.
Yeah, when it's available to anyone else to Google as well, then that becomes a problem. I absolutely agree with you there.
So like, that's, if we're going to talk about the subreddit, then that's where I lie. It's like, okay, you know what, you want to make jokes and shit, like, that's fine, I get it. You want to have your own little, clique and make jokes and shit, like, fine, whatever. But when it gets to the point where it's an all-out assault on the online reputations of other people, like, I don't like Joe DeRosa no more, but I will still defend him for, all that shit that went down when he was getting all those downvotes or bad reviews, rather, on Amazon. Just because he was going against the grain, man. And it's like, everybody gave him shit for that livelihood reference or whatever. But you know what? It's like, no, he was right, bro. It's like, look, that's what he does for a living. And, if you look him up and you see that this comedian's got like a whole bunch of 1-star albums, it's like, well, fuck this guy, he sucks. Like, that could ruin somebody. Yeah. And, they thought that was fucking funny or hysterical. And like, it's the only reason that they do is because they're so fucking anonymous that no one would ever think twice about doing it against them, because who are they?
All right, Danny, I'm going to head off and edit some of this stuff anyway. But again, man, thanks a lot for this. It's been fun little chat. So thanks a lot, and I'll let you know when it's up and out.
Yeah, no worries, dude. If you need any audio that re-voiced or whatever, just let me know.